And to that piece of lieutenant that's always on his podcast, bash us, yeah.
Attention to roll.
That's right. Good morning, everybody. 8:05 live Eastern Time. And before we get into today's show, which we have a great guest on, Robert Holden, which I'm super impressed by, Democrat, Common Sense Caucus. I also learned that he's also the chair for the Veterans Committee for City Council. Bob Holden has been a huge advocate and pushback in opposition to the CCRB. So for that, we're very appreciative. But before we get into our guest today, with profound sadness, we'd like to honor the life of Rabbi Dr. Alvin Cass, who passed at, I have some of the details here, Cornell Hospital. And he will be transferred at 9 o'clock this morning with a police escort to the Weinstein Funeral Home in East Midwood, Brooklyn. His funeral services will be held at the East Midwood Jewish Center on Friday. God bless the life and the service and commitment for Rabbi Dr. Alvin Cass. He gave about 60 years to the NYPD. His entire life has been dedicated to the NYPD and a life of service and just a kind man. I think everyone in the NYPD has some way been touched by Rabbi Dr. Alvin Cass. So profound sadness. God bless him. May we all honor his legacy. John, any thoughts on the life and passing and honoring?
Honestly, he was a staple in the police department for regardless of your faith, your race, your creed, your color. He was a kind man. He was a great man. And I was a person I respected, and I have my issues with a lot of the leadership in the NYPD, but it was never with Rabbi Alvin Cass. So it's a sad day, but it's also let his memory be a blessing, because he was a blessing. He was a great guy, and he did bring a lot of good times to a lot of bad situations. He brought a lot of light on bad situations. So rest in peace to Alvin Cass. He did serve this city for over 60 years. He was there on September 11th. I mean, he's a man to honor, and I know that New York City and the NYPD will do the right thing and honoring him. It's going to be it's going to be a time of sadness, but it's also going to be a time of joy and celebration that there was a life like this that lived. So shout out to him. And shout out to our guest today, to Bob Holden, because I got to give a big shout out to Bob, because I think you truly are a man of character. You transcend political affiliations, Republican, Democrat, and you've weathered the storm. You stood up with common sense through the craziest of times, through COVID, through the push to defund the police. You've always been a voice of reason, somebody that I've looked up to. I know Eric and the rest of this platform, and amongst the rank and file cops. I mean, you've been a voice of reason for everybody in this city, the working class people. So it's an honor to have you here, sir.
It's my honor to be on your show. This was on my bucket list to do before I go, and
this was on your bucket list.
This was on my bucket list. You guys, I've watched. Some of it's right on, obviously, and I agree with 99.9%. In fact, probably everything that you guys say.
Thank you.
Again, I said this is a great show, and we do look at clips a lot of it. My chief of staff, Daniel Kazina, who's a big follower of yours, and showed me your podcast, and he said, look at this. Every day we have a new one to look at, so it's amazing. And thank you for having me.
Bob, it's a pleasure. I mean, your testimony in opposition to at the city council to CCRB was so impressive, and I think it was fair. And I don't think there was any pushback by emotion. You were not emotionally invested. Numerous times when we've seen you speak on behalf of the NYPD, on behalf of common sense, on behalf of the people, and speak to CCRB. And I think it was extremely fair. That's all we asked for. Even being coined as the most complained cop, I've never asked for the eradication of CCRB. I just asked for a fair process. So with that being said, you have an impressive record. You're highly respected. You remind me of the Democrats that are pre-FDR. And that's what people don't understand. Our young men and women today don't understand that there are conservative and moderate Democrats that want common sense, that want something right down the middle, where we have a common sense city. So with that being said, could you tell us, just before we jump into a little bit about yourself, where you grew up and what was so significant that got you into politics, if anything about your career that drove you to politics?
Well, yeah, I was a college professor for 44 years, and that's a long time. I know at CUNY. I taught graphic design, so it wasn't controversial. It wasn't in the political arena, but I had time on my hands, so I always volunteered in the neighborhood. As a teacher, we're told, especially CUNY, they tell you to get involved with your community. So I did very early on. Became the Juniper Park Civic Association president in '89. And I did that for 25 years. Community board member for 30 years, Community Board 5 in Queens. I volunteered, like probably you guys, at Little League and doing all the, with the kids, getting involved in their lives. And so it was always like we're out in the street, we're out in the backyard playing, ball with the kids. So I did all that. And then I said, I should run, for office, because I wasn't happy with my council member at the time, who I thought was going too far to the left. And being involved in his civic associations and community boards, I knew about local politics, but I didn't align with really any party. I wasn't a member of the Democratic Democratic Party leadership. I was never a district leader. Per se, I didn't go to any of those meetings. And on the Republicans side, I knew a lot of Republicans, but as a civic leader, you got to work with both parties. So I worked at that time. Councilmember McCaffrey was a Democrat and represented my district, and then also Tom Ogden, he was a Republican. So I worked with both of them, both good guys, both very smart, and that's how I kind of got interested in politics. So in 2017. I decided to challenge a 9-year incumbent, Elizabeth Crowley, who's the cousin of Joe Crowley, who AOC beat. But I beat Elizabeth the year before AOC beat Joe Crowley. And I won by 137 votes out of 21,000 cast. So it was a close race, but I won. And in that year was 2017, very few, but I ran on the Republican line, believe it or not. And that's what reporters never understood. How can you do that when you're a Democrat? Well, I got permission. I got a Wilson Pakula, which you have to get from the party. They voted to back me after I lost the Democratic primary to Elizabeth. So I came back, won the general, and here I am. But
So Bob, it's been a long ride, right? I think you've been doing great work. I think everyone I know that lives in your district loves you, like literally, and that's hard. It's hard in a city like New York, because so many diverse communities, so many diverse opinions. I don't agree with Eric Adams on much, but I agree with him when he says 8 million people, 70 million opinions. So it's hard to do what you've done. I think you are the most beloved council member there is in New York City. And so what are your thoughts like right now on the state of New York City as it sits? I mean, it's gone through so many changes, even in your time in office, never mind your time living here. Like, so what are your thoughts right now? Like, what are the current state of New York City? I know it's a broad question, but just if you could sum it up for the audience, like what you see.
Well, we're on the brink, I think, and especially if the wrong person gets elected mayor. And if we have a Mayor Mamdani, there's going to be the war on the police will continue. And we saw what happened with the city council in the last 8 years. Before me, it was bad too, but it's got progressively worse. It's gotten progressively worse during my 8 years. And I witnessed everything. Going through the pandemic was very difficult, but seeing what we were allowing then. And by the way, Eric, I was on some of the CCRB hearings during the Floyd riots. I said it at the last, also the last hearing. Good cops, the cops that really get involved, get a lot of complaints against them. And I would wear that as a badge, because a badge of honor, because you're out there working. You're not sitting in your squad car. You're not just sitting around watching things happen. You're out there in the streets, and you're interacting. And there's going to be situations where it's going to get out of hand. So I would wear medals, Eric, if I were you, about all of your accomplishments. But the CCRB, can I touch upon that for a minute?
Absolutely.
I remember, and I wish I had a photograph of this, and I probably do somewhere, but we were doing Zoom hearings during the pandemic. Remember those? And
I know them well.
When we had the CCRB hearings, the members, the CCRB members, were on Zoom, and behind them, because they never thought they'd be on camera in their offices, they had all anti-police headlines behind them on the wall. So, John, like you have plaques on the wall back there, they didn't have that. They had anti-police, police riot, or if there was a police shooting, that would be the headline, and a lot of the Daily News articles behind them. And then I even commented to the chair. I said, you called the riots that we just had in Manhattan, you didn't call them you didn't call them the George Floyd riots. You called that police riots. That's the chairman of the CCRB at the time said that. And I said, I just find it hard to believe that you're impartial, because you just labeled the riots that the police didn't do. They were reacting to burning, vehicles and rocks being thrown at them, bricks, and you name it. They were reacting to that. And you're calling that the police riots. You should not be the CCRB chair. You shouldn't even be on the CCRB. So there's just so many other members had anti-police rhetoric behind them posted. So this is the kind of people we're dealing with. So Mayor Mamdani would actually make it worse in the CCRB and probably just try to bypass the commissioner and that's what you'll see happening. So we're in trouble, folks, but let's elect the right person. And the right person, I believe, is Curtis Sliwa. I'm loyal to people that have been loyal to New York City. And I'll never waver. So I have my differences with Sid Rosenberg now. He was mentioning me this morning. He never has me on, by the way. I've been on there once, when after Bernie passed, and once before. But this is a bad time in New York City. So we need to, again, not listen to the polls, be loyal to the people that are loyal to us, and not support an ex-governor who caused all the problems that we're facing now. I mean, you name it, he caused it, from bail reform to raise the age to discovery, to congestion pricing. I can go on. The list is very long on the things he caused. So we're going to reward him, folks. Are you serious?
You know what, Bob, I got to say, my brother, it's what a pleasure. Like I always say, opposition meets opportunity. I'm always willing to have a conversation with anyone, a civil course debate. And I appreciate and respect everyone. But hearing, great minds think alike at this point, what a breath of fresh air. It's so nice to have people that think like we do, just common sense, things that make sense. And being coined as the most complained cop from CCRB, hearing someone that's not within the police department, but give you support and have a great understanding of the silver linings of it. I appreciate that, especially during COVID. It's quite interesting at the time where myself and the other police officers of the NYPD that had to go through CCRB investigations, we were called down to different offices. We had to go down to the Union or go down to One Police Plaza, and the CCRB investigators would not come to the meetings, and yet they did it from Zoom. We couldn't do it from Zoom from the precinct, but we had to go to a specific location. So again, just shows how we were treated much different and second-class citizens. So with that being said, here you are in City Council, almost a decade. Interesting time, right? You come in under former Mayor Bill de Blasio, working under Mayor Eric Adams. The City Council is predominantly Democrats that don't think in line with you. You're a moderate, you've been coined as a moderate Democrat. So in almost a decade, how difficult is it for you to hold the middle ground being part of city council?
Well, at first I used to take losing, and we used to lose badly. The 35-10, or 35-9 or whatever it was, we would lose 3-1. But we knew, what I did learn very early on, that there are Democrats like me that they'll come up to me and they'll say, I agree with you, but I can't say it. I can't vote with you. I said, well, that doesn't make any sense. Well, what will happen? The speaker will take away my committee. I said, so what's more important? I mean, I'm a principled man. I believe in that. I believe that you stand by your principles. And if you waver, that's when you weaken the line. That's when you'll lose together. So this is what I've noticed, that many council members, and I would say probably 90%, really don't care about issues, don't care about what they're saying. They only care about getting reelected, and they don't only care about themselves. Very selfish people. I'm willing to stick my neck out because that's the way I was brought up. I was brought up to fight what you believe in, and not give up. And not just because the odds are against you, that there's, 90% of the people are against you. If you're right, you can argue and you could win that. Sometimes, I've gotten small victories. One is we formed the Common Sense Caucus, and I hope it grows in the next council. But the thing I want to mention before I forget is that the common sense from my office is going to continue, because two of my staff members are running against each other. So we're going to have somebody from my office to continue this fight, because they're both. Phil Wong is a Democrat. He's a common sense Democrat like me. And Alicia Vaitunis is a Republican and another common sense person and a great deputy chief of staff. They're both going to continue to fight, and they're going to fight, against this, unfair CCRBs, unfair attack on the police. So we're in good shape, at least in my district. I don't know. I can't speak. Staten Island is probably good. I can't speak for the other districts, though, unfortunately.
So, Bob, you're in politics, right? We're kind of just outsiders watching, talking smack from the outskirts. What are your thoughts on the polling, and what are your thoughts about the rise of these betting sites that people are both putting stock into, both Kalishi and Polymarket? Do you believe they're true indicators of what's happening on the ground, and specifically with the polls, with these 400 likely voter polls? How much stock do you put in them personally as a politician, as someone who ran campaigns yourself and been successful?
I don't put any stock. I was, 15 points behind when I was running. I don't believe in, you always think that you have to think that you could win, or else, you shouldn't run. So you have to have an end plan, and you have to have, what do I have to do to get elected, or at least get my message out? So I think the polls that are coming out, just know Curtis Sliwa. You both know Curtis. He's fought for New York. He doesn't do it for the money. He can't be bought. Andrew Cuomo has been bought. Mamdani has been bought. They're doing other people's bidding. The polls, they're running the polls, by the way. So the big real estate interests and everything, they don't want Curtis Sliwa. And know about Andrew Cuomo, and know about Kathy Hochul and other Democrats that are their threats. They're worrying about getting reelected. So you don't think if Andrew Cuomo gets elected that he's not going to go far to the left and again be anti-police, and again come out with things that are going to be harmful to common sense and quality of life? He did that in the state. He showed us his true colors. And so people are actually going to vote for him because they don't like Mamdani. You're going to get the same thing as Mamdani is spouting from Andrew Cuomo. Believe me, because he gets elected, he's going to want to get reelected, and the only way that he can do that as a Democrat is to turn to the left. And That's why we have to stick together as common sense, as conservatives, or as Republicans, or as conservative Democrats. Stick together, folks, because divided we fall, and we can't be divided when we have a candidate that's out there every day. Curtis Sliwa was out 20 hours a day. I've been with him. I can't believe his stamina. He's not much. He's a little younger than me, but not much. And I know I couldn't do what he's doing.
Bob, again, it's a pleasure that we're all on the same wavelength and level plane, that we want common sense and we want normalcy, and that we know that the best prediction of the future is a reflection of the past. So we know Cuomo's experience, so it's a complete failure. And Mamdani is the same thing. That's why it's great when Curtis calls him the apprentice. And Eric Adams is exactly that. He's another failure, except we know that he's corrupt. So with that being said, I know you've been pretty outspoken, and I think this is great, talking about potentially if Mamdani gets elected, or even Andrew Cuomo. I know you've been outspoken about homelessness and migrant housing in different neighborhoods. What are your thoughts on Mamdani's plan to put the NYPD at the bottom of the pecking order when it comes to homelessness and migrants as far as policing? And what would be your plan?
Again, I would increase, just hire more cops, first of all. Like Curtis is saying, 7,000 more cops. Because I listened to the scanner when we could listen to the scanner, and I saw, I listened to all the jobs that each unit was holding, 5 jobs on a regular basis. And what's going to happen, and Mamdani's talking about social workers going to, when we have somebody in distress, somebody's having a mental illness, and there's a lot of people running around. And I was outspoken against Thrive NYC in the council, and Shirlane McCrae, who was de Blasio's wife, I had it out with at hearings about the homeless situation, about the attacks on subway riders on a regular basis from mentally ill people on the street. So I've been through all that. I've seen it. Mamdani hasn't got a clue on how to solve it. If you send somebody into a dangerous situation, and I questioned EMS the other day at a hearing, the EMS workers and the head of the union said, we're not going to go into a situation if we're going to be put in harm's way. If the police don't show up, and many times the EMS show up now before the police. Firefighters show up to a scene way before the police because we don't have enough cops on the street. So there's going to be a more dangerous situation under Mayor Mamdani or Mayor Cuomo because they're going to do the same thing.
No, I agree. I've been out online, like, arguing with a lot of these big influencers. From all of a sudden they woke up 2 weeks ago and started caring about New York City. I've never seen them weigh in on New York City politics ever before. And, and they're all, I've been telling everybody that, I'm like, I was like, Mamdani's going to drive the train to the far left at 100 miles an hour, and maybe Andrew Cuomo takes you there at 75 miles per hour, but you're headed in that same direction. There's only one difference in this election. If you truly care about New York City, and if you truly cared about New York City, there are other races in there that you would care about. There's other races in the city council you'd be talking about. You'd be talking about the DA race in Manhattan with Maud Moran running against Alvin Bragg. She herself was a common sense Democrat, moved over to the Republican Party, running against Alvin Bragg. And no one's talking anything about any of that. 3 days ago now in Queens, I believe it was Forest Hills, if I'm not mistaken, there was a big rally. Mamdani's up on stage, and it was basically the leadership of the Democratic Party of New York and the leadership of New York government. Kathy Hochul, Carl Hastie, Andrea Stewart-Cousins, and it was a huge rally. I believe that rally sent a huge message to the Democrat Party that the DSA is in charge at this point. Like, what are your thoughts on that? Do you feel that the DSA is now running the Democrat Party in New York?
Absolutely. Just look at the leadership of the Democratic Party, and look at the leaders that don't have a backbone, like Chuck Schumer. He used to, you look at some of his clips from the 90s and you say, this guy's a conservative. the way he was talking, that we should, you shouldn't break into our country illegally. If, you should be deported. There's clips of him saying that, just like Obama, the same thing. But notice what's happened in the last, I would say, 8 to 10 years. The party's gone way over to the left. And I never thought, growing up during the Cold War in the 50s, we had the threat of the evil empire, the Soviet Union, not the New York Yankees, evil empire, the Soviet Union, evil empire that Ronald Reagan called them. And by the way, I voted for Ronald Reagan. He's my favorite president in my lifetime. I got to meet him, shake hands with him. What a leader. But and he was a Democrat at one time. But you look at how this party has been just kowtowing to the left. That's why I can't believe Kathy Hochul would go to that rally. It was really a DSA rally. And if you look at the banners, DSA controlled that whole rally in Forest Hills. If you showed up to that, I hope you lose your reelection, because you deserve it. You've sold out. Kathy Hochul sold out New York State. And by backing Mamdani, she sold out New York City. And if you look, all the other candidates in the left, that's going to be, especially if Mamdani wins, you look at the people that he's going to put around him. So there's going to be they're going to go way over to the left. But even, like I said, even if Cuomo wins, he's going to go way to the left, because that's what he's going to do to survive. And understand that these don't elect political leaders that have no backbone, and most of them don't. I don't care about I never cared about getting reelected. I said, if I do my job, I'll get reelected. And where did the support come? It came from both Democrats and Republicans. I've won as a Democrat and I've won as a Republican. So that's what we need more of. People that are not going to be loyal to parties, but more loyal to their constituents, the people.
Oh, I'm glad you mentioned that. Right, we did an episode actually almost 3 years ago now called "Make the NYPD Masculine Again," and basically that's what we're saying is leadership has been emasculated in the police department, media, and politics. And we see this coward pandering. It's go along to get along, and exactly what you said earlier. There's no opposition. There's no one standing on moral principle anymore. It's about their own self-image and self-promotion. So with that being said, I mean, you've worked with all kinds. You've worked with independents, you've worked with Republicans, you've worked with Democrats. And what you talk about here is they went so far to the left. If Curtis Sliwa wins, which we give him our full support, and I do believe that Curtis Sliwa can win this. If he wins, do you think it's possible to have bipartisanship in New York City? Do you think it's possible to get to that point?
I think you'll see more Democrats come over to center, or at least to try to move more to center. You elect a Mamdani or a Cuomo, they're going to go more to the left. So that's the, again, all we need is to see Cuomo's record. All we need is to see Kathy Hochul's record since she got elected. Did she go more toward the center? She used to be at the center, just like other candidates. Like I mentioned Chuck Schumer. Most of the other candidates, when they first got elected, Democrats were more to the center, and then they moved over, as they saw the threat from the DSA, and the DSA is getting a lot of money from across the country, if not the world, into this race. Again, living the Cold War, like I started to mention, I never thought that we would embrace socialism in New York City or in the U.S. for that matter. So the fact that Bernie, Sanders can get elected, and again, they're beyond socialists. They're actually communists, Marxists and communists. So having grown up and seeing the threat and seeing the failure of socialism in all countries where it took hold, these younger people that are with Mamdani don't understand history. They didn't study that because they didn't have it in school. They didn't have civics in high school like I did, probably that you did. And they didn't have, certainly in college, they didn't learn history. My daughter graduated Fordham a few years ago. And I asked her, I said, well, now that you graduate, I'm going to ask you some questions about history. She goes, oh, no, because she didn't have that. She didn't know a lot of things that I said, what I pay for, what's going on. That you have to learn about history and not, again, the woke history. You need to learn what really happened. And unfortunately, that's not being taught in schools. So you're seeing the rise of socialism because of the lack of education of our young while they were in school.
Bob, what do you think that message was that Kathy Hochul comes out, she endorses Zohran Mamdani, and then on the debate stage, when he's asked about her, he refuses to make the endorsement? Like, what was that message? Do you believe, in your opinion? Like, what did that signal politically? Do you think?
Again, she's a chameleon. She'll change her spots just like Cuomo does. They all do it. Look at them. It's not hard. Look at their record. I can't believe people are going with Cuomo, but Hochul did the same thing. They all do it. You'll see it. You saw it in the mayors in the past. We knew, by the way, when de Blasio got in, that he was a socialist. We knew that. We saw it, and he made good on it, a lot of it. But even Mike Bloomberg, I'd say, got more to the left as time went on. In fact, he denounced he got elected as a Republican, and then just left that. So this is how it works in New York City, unfortunately. And until we so that's why it's so important to elect. Even if it's all the polls are saying otherwise, I still think, like you said, Eric, I think Curtis can win. I think, we had the New York Times reporter call the other day, and they were doing an exit poll on early voting, and they were shocked. All their reporters went out, and they were shocked that 85% of the people that were interviewed said they're voting for Curtis Sliwa, and they couldn't believe it. They called us to get that. So don't believe the polls, folks. Don't be a traitor. Because if you jump to Cuomo, you're jumping to Mamdani. It's the same thing. Believe me, I've seen it. Take it from somebody that's impartial. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. I'm just me, and I believe in common sense, and that transcends party.
So since the knee-jerk reaction to George Floyd, the riots that we saw, especially, John and I were still employed with the NYPD at the time, and I was there at the riots myself, and I was a target from CCRB at those riots. But with that was reform after reform and legislation attack on the police, including the diaphragm law, including How Many Stops Act. If you were today, or at any point, if you were the Speaker of City Council, what would be the first reform that you would push through?
I would get rid of all the harmful anti-police bills that are out there. That the diaphragm bill, they call that the chokehold bill. That was during the riots. And then I asked, when we had questions at the city council, and I would question my colleagues or question people that were testifying that were in favor of the diaphragm bill. Let me ask you something. In the real world, you guys were police officers on the streets of New York City. If somebody was resisting arrest and fighting with you, there's a gun involved. Your gun. There's always a gun involved.
Spot on, Bob.
Are you going to tell me? You're going to tell a police officer they can't grab the person by the neck, or they can't grab the person by the chest or diaphragm? They got to grab them by the arm. And somebody is bigger than you. You're gonna say you can't bring them. You got to go for it. You got to go for the head. You try to bring them down. You got to do everything you can because a gun is involved, and it could, get a lot worse. So the answer to all this, I said, well, stop resisting arrest. Stop that. But it all started, again, when I went to meet with the PC some months ago, I don't think she liked my comments, because I said, I feel, Commissioner, that we have the NYPD B team now. We don't have the A team anymore, because they've been all chased away, or they've gotten fired because they did their jobs and they did their job well, but they got fired, or they got disgusted, or they just wanted to retire and get out of this. Because it all started with, remember the throwing water on the police? That's how it started. We as common sense council members, a few of us had a press conference I had with Councilman Yeager, Joe Borelli, and a few others. Eric Owich at the time was a council member. We came out against that because we said it's a disrespect to the police, and they should be arrested, and they should be charged with assault. And again, they were looking. Remember that they were looking the other way. The cops weren't arresting them. They were told by De Blasio, "Don't arrest them. Don't engage." They just had to take it. And I said, next, after the water, it's going to be bricks. And sure enough, that's what happened.
Bob, what do you think about the legislation that's still coming down the pipeline? Obviously, the chokehold bill was ridiculous. I mean, there's no way to possibly arrest someone who's resisting arrest and not violate it. It was meant to emasculate the police department, in our opinion, and that's why when you see videos of the police fighting with people today, it doesn't look like it used to, right? They look like they're playing patty cake as opposed to affecting a lawful arrest.
Yeah, you need 8 cops to take down one perp now.
Yeah,
that didn't happen in the past. Why? Again, they're afraid to touch anyone. They're afraid to engage.
Yeah, because of that bill. What do you think about the bill that's up now and about abolishing the NYPD's gang database? What are your thoughts around that?
That is so ridiculous. That is so ridiculous and so harmful. You do that. By the way, this is the reaction to you have exploding gang membership of young people. 14-year-olds shootings, getting killed in their districts, by the way. So the council members that are yelling the most about, getting rid of the gang database, because what? Because most of the people on the young people on that are black and brown. That's the reality. And, Chief Madry, I remember him saying when he got on with the council, he said, well, council member, that's the reality. I'm sorry, but that's the reality. And it all comes from, again, the home and, one parent, the mother usually raising the child. This is why they join gangs, because they really didn't have a family life. So that's why they feel more together. But it's to not do a gang database, to eliminate that, you'll see an explosion. Whatever youth crime we have now, it'll double. My prediction. If you eliminate that.
Well, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I think right now, talking about how cops hesitate, we see that more prevalent now than ever. And I said this phenomenon at the time is going to turn into cops getting assaulted at an alarming rate. And I said, unfortunately, I hope I'm wrong. Unfortunately, eventually we will lose the life of a cop to something other than a firearm, because people are getting very handsy with cops. There's no fear. And the cops are using, kid-like gloves. It's unfortunate. And also with the lowering of standards. What are your thoughts on that? Let's be honest. We're being fair. What are your thoughts on the lowering of standards when it comes to the NYPD? And exactly what you just said. There is the B team, because it's emasculation of the NYPD. John made the decision to leave the NYPD because of the vaccine mandate. Marlon Bethel on the fines Unfiltered was terminated. Sal Greco was terminated. I was forced out. With CCRBs, exactly that. I was getting illegal firearms on a daily basis. So what are your thoughts on the lowering of standards at this point with the NYPD? Because Curtis says he's going to bring in 7,000 more cops, but we have a lower standard. What are your thoughts about that? And what do you think about bringing veteran cops back? Like John, myself, not necessarily will we come back, but cops that, still have it in them to do it.
Yeah, I would bring the cops back, because those are the most experienced cops. You can't replace an experienced cop, and most of the cops go out now at 20 years, and because first of all, the job is very, very difficult, and they keep piling on, making it more difficult year by year. Eliminating that qualified immunity, doing the chokehold bill, how many stops act. I mean, that was ridiculous. I argued against that, and unfortunately, Eric Adams didn't have Randy Mastro at that time, because Randy Mastro, who's the first deputy mayor, he's actually experienced. He actually worked under Mayor Giuliani, still our greatest mayor. But you created a war on police, and now you have to lower standards to recruit anyone now, because now you have to almost say, well, we have to lower the standards because nobody wants to be a cop. Well, you created this with all these regulations. So if Curtis came in, we'd have to unravel all that but I certainly would help him. I'm not looking for a job, but I certainly would. He calls me a lot, almost every day, to ask about my opinion on things. But he knows how to bring us back. Cuomo won't do any of that. Believe me, he won't. He says he'll hire 5,000 cops now. He's not going to do that. But he's still going to keep their hands tied, because again, he's going to get some flack from the Democratic Party left, and he's going to give in, and you'll see same thing happen with his administration or a Mamdani administration.
No, I agree. And I keep saying that to everybody. I'm like, you don't think his CCRB board's going to look like his parole board that released 43 cop killers? So I don't understand what cops are thinking. Like when they start to waver with that, I'm like, it's going to be bad. Like your CCRB, and I do believe the mayor sets the tone for the CCRB. The mayor sets they have a lot of picks, and then the police commissioner has a lot of picks that would outweigh even the city council picks for that board. So if you put common sense people in there, we could get a CCRB that's not doing reverse engineers investigations and is actually just seeking to seek the truth. If a cop messes up, they punish them and they give them a fair punishment. If they don't, they find them not guilty. It's like, this isn't hard, and that's not happening. The other thing that's been coming up a lot is, we're consistently told that there's historical drops in crime across New York City, and yet everyone I speak to is complaining about crime. They don't feel safe going to and from work. They don't feel safe in their neighborhoods. They say the quality of life in their neighborhoods have diminished. What are you seeing in your district? What are you hearing from your people in regards to crime?
By the way, when we saw Jessica Tisch come in, we saw a kind of a spinning of the numbers. I don't know if you guys noticed that. They used it like the previous year, like they always did. But John Shell, Chief Shell, who just retired, was on Arthur Idella's show yesterday. I was on with him, and he was saying, we had the lowest shootings and crimes in history. I said, wait a minute. If you compare the numbers of last year, maybe yes, the crime is getting a little bit lower, at least reported crime. We're not getting all reports. Cops don't want to take reports anymore. We've noticed that in our precinct. They discourage a victim from making a report. But more importantly, I said, Chief, compare the numbers. Last year, I get what you're saying, but compare the numbers to 2019 when all these cashless bail, all these other things kicked in, raised the age, discovery changes, you name it. All that started to happen. Compare the numbers, and you can't. The numbers are way up compared to those years, than 2019. So bail reform helped push that along, the crime, but the crime is still, way higher. But a lot of crimes aren't being reported also.
Yeah, well, we see that often, right? We see when it comes to shot spotters that the shot spotters are not being maintained, they're not being replaced. And if anything, they're being removed. And so what we've been saying is that if there is a shot fired and no one is struck, it's not being documented properly. It's a misrepresentation of what's going on. So we're not going to, if we don't document every trigger pull, we're not getting an actual picture of what's happening in front. And we see it. We've seen it. Case in point, Susan Edelman did a great article from the New York Post about the incident in Staten Island where someone fired 6 shots at a home, and it was documented as a reckless endangerment. Not investigate shots fired, not attempted assault. So it's a misrepresentation front. And unfortunately, under Eric Adams, what do you think would happen if Zohran Mamdani is elected or Andrew Cuomo? What do you think the representation will be of crime in comparison to what we see now?
Again, it's they'll figure out a way to spin the numbers, and this is what they do. So don't even believe the stats. But Eric, how many crimes go unreported now? Have you ever seen such a ridiculous avalanche of crimes that are not being reported? Do you know that the shoplifting in my district is through the roof? Some of the bigger pharmacy chains are getting hit every day. And you know what? They've stopped reporting. I had to call their main offices to say, you have to report crime. The shoplifting, if you don't report it, it's just going to get out of control. And certainly it has, hasn't it? so we're seeing that, and on every level, they're not reporting crimes. People, even the victims. You lose your catalytic converter, I have to beg constituents to report it, because they say, what's going to happen? They're not going to get it back. Your package is stolen. It's not reported anymore. The company just reimburses you, and you pay on the back end, though. You're paying, again, higher prices on everything because of all this package. I have a homeless shelter in my district, and they're operating a ring. At least they were caught operating a theft ring out of there. They were dealing drugs out of there, and some of the workers were even allegedly involved, because I had whistleblowers come in. Everything's gotten so bad. The lawlessness that we're seeing on the streets gotten so bad because the cops are being discouraged from taking reports.
Oh yeah, it's really bad. And people like, it's the same as it always was, and I don't think so. Like, the police department always took reports. Maybe there was misclassifications of the crimes, but now every person I talk to is saying they don't even want to take the report. Your car's broken into, your house is spray painted, any minor crime, there's no report. And Bob's telling you here that even the chain stores are no longer reporting it. And what happens that? Then your quality of life goes down. You show up at your local pharmacy and you can't even get a bottle of water. You have to ring a bell to get a bottle of water. I mean, it's having a huge effect on the quality of life. Bob, Zohran Mamdani's recently come out and he's saying that he wants to put this Department of Community Safety. To me, it sounds like just a dumbing down of the NYPD, a transfer of wealth and resources over to a civilian police agency. And he's came out and he said that he doesn't want NYPD officers responding to 911 calls of people experiencing mental crisis or having mental episodes. Often these things are violent. And he said on the debate stage that he trusts the 911 operator to make that decision over the phone, whether or not this person's violent and whether or not law enforcement should respond. What are your thoughts about all that?
Well, you guys were cops. How many calls came over and it wasn't even close to being accurate? Somebody called.
Majority. The overwhelming majority.
Right. And
most of them.
I've spoken, not to knock 911 operators, but sometimes you're panicking many times. You're calling, I just witnessed something, and you're talking very fast and they slow you down. I get it. But what comes across, and more often than not, like you just mentioned, the cops will say, well, it didn't come over that way. It came over as somebody just disturbing the peace. The fact that they didn't see a weapon or they didn't know it, the person's acting irrationally. You're asking a 911 operator to interpret what the caller is saying. Many times the caller is stressed, so you're not going to get a very accurate picture. So the EMS workers who report, or any other, whatever they want to call this new agency that Mamdani is trying to create, is creating another bureaucracy and another multi-million-dollar agency who's going to have staff. First of all, he's not going to be able to get the healthcare providers. There's not enough of them right now. Mental health, social workers. So if you don't have enough, how are you going to staff this? Are they going to be experienced? And how many people are going to be harmed because you don't have a police officer there? And right now, when you get a police officer there, they feel the pressure. If somebody has a weapon, they have to wait until the last possible second. And even when they make the right decision, because the person gets violent or has a weapon and they shoot the person, they're criticized. So it's a lose-lose situation. And it's going to only get worse under Mamdani, because these social workers are not going to be qualified, and there's going to be people that are going to get killed because of that. Both it could be family members, innocent bystanders, EMS workers.
I think you're spot on. I mean, the 911 dispatchers, they do a fantastic job, and they're dealt with someone who's emotionally disturbed themselves, right? When someone calls 911, people don't call 911 because they're having a good day. They call 911 because they're having a bad day. So they're emotionally disturbed themselves, and it's convoluted information. So I think the meat and potatoes for the 911 dispatcher is to get out the location of the incident, for the most part, and just an idea of what might be going on, just to give the cops a location where to go to and an idea what they might be getting themselves into. But I would say a majority of the times it doesn't match up. And numerous times I've responded, and so has John and many other cops, where the person calling 911 was in fact the perpetrator, and took the cops to figure out what was going on. So with that being said, we talked about social workers. I'm curious, because we talk about this often on the podcast, the violence interrupter program. We don't know how much they make or what's going on with them. Have you or anyone on the city council, have you inquired about the violence interrupter program? Do you know if there's any metric of measure to determine what they're doing, if any successes, and what's the cost to the taxpayer?
Eric, you hit the nail on the head when you said, what's the outcome? You know, how has the crime gone down? So let's say if shootings go down in that particular borough, even, they cite that. They'll use, because of the violence interrupters. Well, how do you evaluate them? You want to evaluate the police on every turn. You're going to question the police, but how many violence interrupters have you questioned on how effective they've done? And most times they haven't been effective, because the youth crime is way up, and that's what they're supposed to address. So tell me how how's it working out with $50 million put toward this program, when that could have been put toward real, hiring more cops, or even more mental health professionals. But see, this sounds good. Violence interrupters. It sounds good. It's not the police. There's war on police. I don't want a police officer. My colleagues in the city council, Tiffany Caban's probably the poster child for that. Everything police. She doesn't want the police to respond. She doesn't believe people should be put in jail. She believes everybody is right, protecting the criminals. If you're anti-police, you're right. You're on the right side. She even voted against. I remember when she first got on the council, she voted against they were building a new victim services building for mostly domestic violence in the Bronx, because it's there was a horrible situation where the victims of domestic violence would have to come in the same door as the person that attacked them, and so they created this new building with new capital project to rectify that, to make it more at least comfortable for the victims of domestic violence or abuse. She voted against that because the police would be in there. The police are also housed in the same building. I mean, you can't make this stuff up.
Speaking of Tiffany Caban, like, Zoran brings up a lot of the points she does. What I hear him say a lot is evidence. We're going to use evidence-based public safety strategies. That's the same language that Tiffany Caban uses. And I'm like, you have no evidence. Like, what are you told? Where's the evidence? Like, but that's the language of the DSA. Evidence-based public safety solutions, like this violence intervention program, where now we quarterly, the NYPD in Brownsville in the 7-3 precinct, they shut off like a 2-block radius of Mother Gascon Boulevard, and it's a police-free zone. We could only go in there if there's a shooting or a stabbing, and then 911 calls are routed to these violence interrupters, but only from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. You know, and just for those few days. And then, it's funny, they don't keep track of any of the evidence. So but yet exactly what you said, the comptroller, Brad Landa, did a report on this program and said it brought shootings down. I'm like, how would you get that? And when his report outlines they have no metrics, they keep no records, we know nothing, and yet he credits them with bringing shootings down. Just like you said, like that's their language, the evidence-based public safety strategies. No evidence whatsoever.
Yeah, Brad Landa, the most disgusting elected official on the face of the planet. And I said it. Because he'll, again, he's so anti-police, so anti-common sense. It's hard to understand how, he can actually look in the mirror. It's amazing. But Tiffany Caban was on the stage the other night in Forest Hills. You saw her, and you saw all the other DSA. Again, this is the future leadership under Mamdani. This is why there's going to be a lot of people moving out of New York City if Mamdani gets elected, or Cuomo.
Speaking of leadership, when we talk about the NYPD, we've seen police commissioners now. We've seen the most amount of transition and change under Eric Adams and, with former Mayor Bill de Blasio. So I don't want to put you on the spot and say, who would you pick? But if you had to handpick a police commissioner for the NYPD, what type of characteristics and traits would you look for? And also, do you think it should be someone from the inside that's a cop, or do you think at this point we need an outside person coming in? And should that person who is picked as police commissioner, should they be in a political role or more of a role leading cops?
Again, this is a hard question, because on one hand I say, well, somebody came up through the ranks, but then there's not many good people left there. The way I see it, because a lot of the good people said, I've had enough, and they're gone, or they're retired. So I would try to bring somebody maybe that's retired, bring them back to be the commissioner. If Jesse Tisch, I think she's doing a good job, but I think there's a lot of spin in there, and she's like, she's one of the most, I think, probably, and a little curious to see, because the left likes her and also the right likes her. So if you're able to do that, I don't know how she's doing it, but she is, and I haven't seen that in any of the commissioners. They mostly, the left hates every police commissioner, anybody that wears the uniform or did wear the uniform. I guess because she never wore the uniform, maybe they're more tolerant of her. But it's a difficult question, Eric. The question of what kind of commissioner. You need a tough commissioner, and I've seen Commissioner Bratton. I've seen Kelly. I've seen a lot of the good ones. I remember working. My first experience going to 1PP was talking to Chief Anemone. That's way back. I don't know if you guys remember him.
Yep.
But there was a guy that told it like it is. I've never had that where a police chief would say, the cops screwed up on this one, or they left the scene. They should have engaged, but I never heard that. And I had a lot of complaints as a civic member, and I would see the police not engage. And so that needed to be called out when they kind of disrespected, let's face it, there were some cops, and there still are cops who don't care. They shouldn't probably be in the job. They don't know how to act when somebody confronts them, or at least, engages them. So we have to educate some of the cops, train them the right way to how to speak to the public, but also not take crap either. And that's what I don't like. You can disrespect the police officer and they got to stand there and do nothing. I wonder if we should bring back the nightsticks. I know Curtis used to say that a lot, but there was in my day, growing up in the 50s and 60s in New York City, the cops are all big. They're all tall, and I remember that being a kid in the neighborhood, and you never disrespected the police. You were taught to go to the police when you were in trouble, and that's what we were taught in school. I don't think that's being taught anymore.
Bob, we all of us that have been supporting Sliwa, and I think, the groundswell is amazing with Sliwa. Like the people, Democrat, left, right, they love Curtis, and I'm hearing a lot from everyone in every borough. I'm voting Curtis Sliwa. Curtis Sliwa is our only option. But we're getting a lot of pushback that, Curtis should drop out of this race. Curtis is the spoiler candidate. What's your message to all these people that are telling the Republican nominee, a person who has so much ground support? If you look at social media, he's even blowing past Zohran Mamdani's primary campaign. I honestly think the Curtis Sliwa campaign is surging. What are your thoughts? What's your words to these people that are consistently saying, Curtis should drop out for Andrew Cuomo?
Again, if you're going to, Sid Rosenberg likes to cite the polls. Well, what about the poll that had, if Mamdani was against Curtis, the race is even closer than Cuomo against Mamdani? What about that poll? They just discount that poll. but they want somebody that's been campaigning the hardest, that has poured his heart and soul into New York City since we can remember in 1979 when he formed the Guardian Angels. But even fighting for common sense, candidates to get elected. He was on the radio and he pushed my campaign. So I'm indebted to him. But I not only by that, but what Sid Rosenberg said this morning is that Bob Holden is staying with Curtis because he was promised a job. Curtis goes around saying that he wants to make me the chancellor of New York City's public school. I don't want the job. I told Curtis that. I said, look, I don't want that job. I'm not looking for a job. But this is what Sid Rosenberg invents, that I need a job. I'm 74 years old. I don't need another job, folks. I just want to relax. I've been working since I was 12. I'm not behind a candidate because he's going to give me a job. How dare you, Sid, say that? You won't have me on your show because I tell you off. I'm a loyal person. I'm still loyal to the Dodgers, believe it or not. That's how loyal I am. I went to my father, worked at Ebbets Field, and he took me there when I was 5 years old. Let me walk around Ebbets Field alone. I remember that. And I was 5. Would you let your kid walk around a stadium at 5 years old alone? You couldn't. He did that, and it was normal though. It was okay then. But I'm loyal. I'm incredibly loyal because I believe that the people that stick their necks out for us, we have to stand behind. So some of my Republican colleagues or conservative colleagues that are going to Cuomo are making a huge mistake. The down ballot. You'll never get good people elected on the down ballot, especially Republicans. If Republicans are going to turn on Curtis, that's disgraceful. He can win, by the way. If you've spent some time with Curtis, Eric or John, you'd know that he's so popular. Like people just come around him, and all types of people, all different nationalities come around. It's amazing. So they're underestimating him.
Yeah, he's charismatic. I think he's loved by all. I think he's the kind of guy that could fit in any group. We've had conversations with him numerous times, and he actually impressed me. He knows the issues. He's not just some TV personality. He knows the issues. There's a lot below the surface. And I just want to let you know, Bob, by the way, friends on our chat right now, they're loving you. Like, you got some great comments. Some people real supportive of you, and I'm sure it's a breath of fresh air for them also to have a politician here today that believes in common sense, that wants normalcy. It's nice to hear. So talk about New York.
Curtis, by the way, Curtis is just like me, where he's loyal, he's honest, and he will do the right thing every time. You can't say that about anybody else, any other politician. He's not a politician. That's what's great. You need somebody that's not part of the whole system. Cuomo is entrenched in that, and Mamdani is like a flash in the pan. So let's be real, folks. He's a snake oil salesman, Mamdani, and Cuomo's the same guy. It's exactly the same. Don't fall for that.
Spot on. We talk often, and I'm a firm believer it's the special interest groups of these billionaires that are behind this right now, pushing for Cuomo. And John and I talk about this all the time. And I even said the other day, I said, I think this whole thing comes down to the city of yes. So what are your thoughts on the city of yes? Because it's starting to feel more like the city of yes is not for residents. It's really about the developers. What's your take on the city of yes?
Very harmful to the quality of life in the neighborhoods. Doesn't work. You're building it. They want to shove more buildings into residential areas, especially areas that are low rise, 1 and 2 family districts like mine. Most of my district, 95%, is 1 and 2 family homes. They don't like that. They want to put more houses on the same property. That would what? That would overtax our sewer system. Right now, I get floods in my district. Most of my district gets flooded. Without putting in new sewers, they want to build more. And they complain about, global warming, and we have heavier storms. Well, if you're not putting in new sewer systems, upgrading, and you want to put more housing and higher and bigger buildings, and destroy the low-rise neighborhoods. I live in Middle Village because I want to feel the sun on my face in the backyard. That's why I bought a legal 2-family home. And I don't rent my other apartment because, again, of all the rent laws that, are just so pro-tenant. So you actually you have somebody move in and then they pay the first month rent and they stop paying rent. You can't get them out. That's why small landlords are not renting their apartments. So the city of yes is a fallacy. Curtis has the best idea for building more housing. Put some in areas that a lot of the businesses have moved out. The office buildings, especially in Manhattan, are empty. A lot of the businesses are working remotely now and can downsize. So you'd have instant apartments right there. So do that instead of city of yes.
Bob, yesterday another video came out about Zohran Mamdani, and he was speaking, and he said if the boot of the NYPD is on your neck, then you know that it's greased by the IDF. What are your thoughts about that insane statement, and what do you believe that shows about his thought process?
Well, that shows you how radical he is, that he compare the NYPD. And what else did he say about the NYPD? That they're racist, right? Remember that one? All the cops are racist. It's amazing. This is the rhetoric that you're going to hear. And again, it's de Blasio 2.0. But at least de Blasio wasn't, the way I'm looking at it now, wasn't as radical because, again, I don't know how a Jewish New Yorker could vote for Mamdani. I can't figure that one out. But there's apparently a lot of Jewish voters that are with him. And I don't understand, because the rhetoric that he's comparing Israeli forces, soldiers to the NYPD is like you said, is moronic. It's insane. But you can't take him seriously because he's going to say these things. Again, he's a facade. He's an empty suit. And just like Cuomo, same thing. People don't know because they're packaged differently, but he's really the same as Cuomo and Mamdani are together. Believe me.
Well, that's what we've been saying. They're one and the same. That Cuomo's legislation, his reforms have made the streets less safe for New York City residents, and Mamdani is going to do exactly the same. He has zero plan or a lack thereof. He doesn't have any plan. And this plan of putting social workers at the top of the pecking order when it comes to policing is basically forming another police department. To me, it's almost on the lines of when we saw CHOP and Chaz zones in Portland, in Seattle, where they wanted to remove the police and they ended up creating their own police force there. So I think we talk about total radicalism here. What do you think if Mamdani does get elected? What will the relationship be with Mamdani and the Jewish community? And I agree. I can't believe that we're having people potentially vote for him. What do you think the relationship would be with him and the Jewish community, particularly in areas like Borough Park or Crown Heights? What do you foresee happening?
Well, I think at first, knowing he's a politician, number one, he'll try to bend over backwards initially. This is what they do. But then gradually he'll show his true colors. And by the way, his true colors are he's anti-Semitic. He's said it. He doesn't believe Israel should exist. He said that a number of times. Globalize the Intifada means destruction of the Jewish people and the Jewish state. So if you think that he'll initially, again, that's all they're going to think about is getting reelected. So the first day one, he's going to try to, I'm the everyone's mayor. I'm going to do everything for everyone. I'm not turning anybody away. But watch what happens with policing. Watch what happens with the quality of life of the neighborhoods. It's going to be on a downturn. Most of my complaints in my district to the police are quality of life. They're not going to address it. They won't have enough cops to address it. And then you'll see, they created the Q team now in the precincts, which is, again, we've seen community policing reinvented over the years. I remember CPOP. Remember that one? So they create these new programs that don't work. Community policing doesn't work, does it? Because when the community police officers were assigned, it sounded good. They're going to deal with quality of life, but now they morphed into answering 911 emergency because there's not enough cops. So the Q team's the same way. I questioned the chiefs that proposed that. I said, well, is the Q team that you have in the neighborhoods in the precincts going to answer 911 calls? Oh, of course they're going to have to. I said, well, that program is out. It's gone because it doesn't work then. So if you don't have enough cops and you're creating another team, where are the cops? Where were they going to go? And how are they going to deal with the quality of life when they're answering 911s each unit? So it's not going to work, and it doesn't.
Oh yeah, it's robbing Peter to pay Paul, and ultimately, it's the 911 times that are going to rise. It's more wait time for when you call 911. And it's less service. It's less customer service. It's just what's happening, and that's what's happening.
And it's just packaged differently, but it's still this. If you don't have the basic foundation, and they don't have it, and that's why again, I questioned Police Commissioner Jesse Tisch on this. I said, I don't know if it's going to work. It's not working.
No, I totally agree with you. I mean, like we know the difference between Cuomo and Mondani when it comes to international foreign policy, right? We know that Cuomo is a friend to the state of Israel. We know that Mondani is anti to the state of Israel. But fundamentally, when it comes to policy related to New York, is there any difference that you see between an Andrew Cuomo or a Zohran Mondani as far as it relates to here, the stuff that we concerned with, an election here in New York City? Like, is there anything that you could think of off the top of your head?
No, again, knowing politicians the way I do, whatever they appear to be, is not what they believe in. But so they're putting on a political face. Like I said, Hochul does it. They all do it. I have no respect for most politicians, believe me. And when I say this in the city council, I have 2 or 3, I think, that are true to their word and believe in what they're preaching. Not many. But that's why I can't put any stock into Cuomo. He's already caused the damage. He's caused more damage than Mamdani by far. So why would you reward him with your vote? That's insanity. He's got blood on his hands. How many people are not alive today because of his policies? And I'm not even getting into the nursing home scam. I'm not getting into that. Getting into all the destructive anti-police measures that he caused, that people were in and out of the system. They got arrested 35 times, and they're killing people. We see that every day on the streets of New York City. And you're gonna the architect of that, you're gonna reward with your vote? Can't work, folks. Can't work. Don't do it.
So we all watched the debates, and we saw that the debates were less about policy and more about just who is willing to put their finger in the chest and give opposition to Donald Trump. And that's what we've seen these debates come back, be surrounded by. And unfortunately, Curtis Sliwa was the only adult in the room. So when we talk about pushback with Donald Trump, what are your thoughts with ICE having their boots on the ground? We spoke about it the other day. We did a podcast talking about ICE doing peddler enforcement in Chinatown. What are your thoughts on the NYPD cooperating with ICE as far as removing people for serious offenses? Should the NYPD work in partnership with ICE as we speak? Or what are your thoughts on that relationship?
Of course. I mean, why did we form Immigration and Customs Enforcement and Department of Homeland Security? Why did we form them, Eric? We formed them after 9/11 because we wanted what was happening. The NYPD was not communicating with the FBI. They weren't communicating with the feds. We didn't know about these terrorists because nobody communicated with one another. So they created this agency to communicate. And I criticized Bloomberg because 10 years after 9/11, so this is about 2010, 2011, he signs a bill that NYPD will not cooperate with ICE at Rikers and other places, courts and so forth. And I said to him, and I testified when he was the bill signing, they never expected us, but we came down there with 10 or 12 people, and we blasted him saying, we can't believe a mayor in the city of New York would actually make New York City less safe from a terrorist attack than you're doing today, Mayor Bloomberg. And he got shaken by it. I could see he was visibly upset. And he kind of apologized, but he said, I agree with you a little bit, Mr. Holden, but I'm still signing the bill. Because, again, you have to have a backbone. You have to stand up to the left. Very few mayors do that. There's no Democratic politician that I know these days that stand up to their own party. And the reason why I stayed a Democrat, because I needed to be a voice of having I wanted to be one of those people in the Democratic Party. And hopefully we'd recruit more. We haven't. They're not going to do it because they see the party going, like I said before, way over to the left. Because that's what gets them elected. That's all they care about, folks. Don't trust politicians.
We appreciate it, Bob. You've been very generous with your time. Is there anything that we missed here? Anything that you'd like to highlight?
No, I think we covered a lot, but Rikers is another thing, another day that we could talk about, because there's different opinions, at least from Cuomo on that one with Mamdani. But keeping Rikers open and reconstructing it makes the most sense. It's an island. It's secure. If you put these community jails in at a cost, and it ranges from now. It used to be $9 billion. It's gone way up now. I think it's more like $25 billion for these community jails. That's only going to house half the population, the current population of the city jails. That's insane. But Mamdani is saying he's going to meet the 2027 deadline. It's impossible. He said he's going to do it. Cuomo said something that we're going to have, something in between. Only Curtis is saying rebuild Rikers, get rid of the community jails. If you want to build something in those areas, then put affordable housing, which makes more sense. But that's all I got to say. I think I said a lot.
I think in almost an hour and 20 minutes here, I think we discussed a lot of issues. I want to thank you for coming on today. Your stamina is great. Your responses are amazing. You got so much love here from the chat. I really appreciate it. So here's something we do often. We get to know people on a different level. We know Bob Holden, your life, your career, your thoughts on policies. So if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself, just have a little fun in your spare time, or what are your hobbies? What do we know about Bob Holden other than public service and your career? What do you do in your personal time?
Well, I'm a graphic designer by trade, and that's what I taught. That's what I worked in. So I want to, possibly go back to that. I like doing graphic design. I like photography. I was a photographer on the streets of New York. Had an agency to sell my work, both commercially and artistically. But I just want, I want to travel a bit more. But I have hobbies that I want to, certainly take up when I'm not in public service. But public service has been an education for me. I knew that politics was a nasty business, but I never knew how disloyal many politicians are, and dishonest. It's actually worse than I thought, and I hate to say that. But leaving 8 years in the council, very few ethics, very little common sense. So that's why the voters out there have a big selection to make. Vote with who is more aligned with who you are and what your community is about, rather than promises. Don't believe the rhetoric of some of these people. So thank you guys. We're gonna need you guys after the election, which is going to be a very whoever gets elected, we're going to need support, and we're going to need your voices out there. So keep up the good work, guys. Appreciate it.
We appreciate it, ladies and gentlemen. The great and powerful Bob Holden. Bob, we'd love to have you come back on. Thank you so much for your time. This was a great interview, and again, it's an honor to have you on here. We highly respect the work you do. You're a man of character, and thank you for your service to the people of the city of New York.
I feel the same about you guys. Again, you're amazing heroes. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Bob, thank you for everything you did with CCRB and you continue to do today. It's been a pleasure. I'm glad you were here today. It's
wear those medals, those complaints on your chest.
yeah.
Really.
All my medals, I throw them in the garbage, but I wear them on my heart. You're absolutely right.
Right. No, but make a T-shirt with all the complaints.
Well, Bob, since
you,
you're interested in traveling, that's one of my
Thanks so
passions. Let me know where you want to go. I'll tell you where to go.
Love you guys.
Thanks, Bob. All right, that was awesome, dude. That was awesome. That was a great interview. Thanks, guys, for hanging in there. We had about 1,400 people with us this morning. Appreciate all the love, all the support. Yeah, I mean, look, he is as packaged, right? I mean, we've watched so many of his clips. We've shared so many of his clips. We discussed so many of his clips. True man of character, you hear it. And that's what a politician should be, not a Democrat, not a Republican. They should be someone that cares about what's best, what has common sense. I think Bob outlined that, right? If you were to describe a New York Democrat, you're not going to think that there's a guy that like Bob Holden that exists. But yet the police love him, the fire department loves him, the teachers love him, Democrats love him, Republicans love him. And why? It's because you know who Bob Holden is, right? He's not a two-faced phony like what he's even telling you. He's telling you these politicians, they lie to your face, they get in, they do exactly something else. So, I mean, that was refreshing. What'd you think about that, Eric?
I would say, other than Curtis Sliwa, he's the only politician we've had here, besides running for mayor. Only other politician we had that delivered as advertised, right? We've seen his responses. We've watched before, testified city council, and we've always heard about the great things he does behind closed doors. But hearing him today on person in this interview, he delivered as advertised, and I'm like, wow, thank God that there's someone out there like him. And you gotta ask yourself, like, it took balls to survive almost a decade in the city council in the sea of snakes and sharks. That's why I asked him, how did you hold down the middle ground, being part of this wacky city council? And he's pretty, he knows everyone's watching this, and he's pretty honest. He says, don't trust these politicians. So, man, you know what? That was awesome. And the chat, they loved him too. That was great. Great guy, man. It was super cool. I'm happy.
And so disingenuous on Sid Rosenberg to try to say that Bob Holden at 74 is supporting Curtis for a paycheck. I mean, the only one that's holding on to a paycheck is you, Sid. And it's very obvious. Yeah. And you are not a man of character, Sid Rosenberg. And that's why you see when you go out online, you're getting blasted. And now you run into all these big influencers to save you. But you know what it is. The people of the city in New York pulled your card. Everybody likes you. Everybody thinks you're an entertaining guy. But you're not a man of integrity. You're not a man of character, and you showed that. And I totally believe Bob when he says he does not want to be the school chancellor. It's 74. You want to go run a full-time 24-hour day, 7-day a week, 365 a day a year job. But that's exactly the people that we need in public service, right? That's exactly the people we need. I don't want to do it. I always go back to that movie line in Gladiator, and I know it's just a movie, but it's true, and it's true for life. And it's the part where after the battles are won, Caesar comes to Maximus, and he says to him, I want to make you the general. I want to make you Caesar. I want you to replace me. And Maximus says to him, I don't want to do it. I just want to go home, be with my family, and raise my crops. And Caesar says to Maximus, he goes, well, that's exactly why it must be you. And I think that that's true. The people that want power aren't the people that we should be voting for. It's the people that really truly care about the issues that matter. And Bob Holden's that guy. Curtis Sliwa's that guy. And that's why I support Curtis Sliwa, is because he's a man of his word. Andrew Cuomo cannot be trusted. Zohran Mamdani cannot. Zohran Mamdani is like a shell of a human. Like, he's not even a real person. We don't even know who he is. He's a complete actor. He's a rapper one day. All we know is he has a stupid smile. He had zero substance behind any of his plans. And a lot of the stuff he said is horrific. Same goes true for Andrew Cuomo. A lot of the stuff he said is horrific. The things he's done are even more horrific. So, I mean, whatever. We got a few days left. I know I'm going to be riding to the end. I know Eric's going to be riding to the end. I know Sal's going to be riding to the end. And I truly do not believe the polls. I'm like, from everything I'm hearing, from everything I'm seeing. I mean, go on social media. Curtis Sliwa's social media is so much bigger than Zohran Mondani's was when he was polling at 1% and then won the Democratic primary. His ground game right now is so much bigger than Zohran Mondani was. All Andrew Cuomo has is paid for mouthpieces. That's it. He's not even campaigning. I don't believe the polls. I don't believe Polymarket. I don't believe Kalishi. I know the Post. We did a space last night with the Post reporter who basically wrote the same article I did 2 weeks ago about Polymarket. and they honestly, they were so disingenuous the whole time on the space. All it was I don't believe the polls. Don't trust Polymarket. Oh, but Curtis Sliwa should drop out because of the polls. I was like, wait, time out. You don't believe the polls, but because of the polls, you believe that Curtis Sliwa should drop out. And then they're going on saying like Andrew Cuomo has a big social media presence, that Andrew Cuomo has a big ground game. And it's the exact opposite from everything everyone's hearing. If I went in my DMs and I showed you all of the people that are like, I don't know what everyone's talking about. Everybody I'm talking to, 90% of the people I'm talking to are voting for Curtis Sliwa. I don't know what this push in the mainstream media is. And I just feel like we're being lied to. I feel like this is a huge propaganda campaign being raised up by billionaires. And I don't think they care whether it's Mondani or it's Cuomo, but ultimately I don't believe Cuomo could win. I do believe he's helping Mondani.
John, I don't know if it's true, but I heard a rumor that she went on ChatGPT and it said, see the finest unfiltered.com. John wrote, blah, blah, blah. Oh, okay. Let me copy this reference. But hey, listen, you know what? Thank you for taking information from the finest unfiltered. We appreciate it. You know, that means just means it's right and it's accurate. So, listen, I think today was a hell of an interview. I'm so happy to have Bob on. You know, and just to show you, you know, we're not sipping for Bob or Bob is sipping for cops. Listen, he was pretty fair. He said he talked great, right? He supported the cops, but he did say also there are cops out there that are not good at their job, that don't want to do it and shouldn't be in the profession. So I think he was fair. And the reality is cops need support. And he saw the writing on the wall when cops had water dumped on them. We all said the same thing. The water is symbolic that eventually that water will be bricks. And we see it right now. As far as Sid Rosenberg, I'm a firm believer that there are people that are multifaceted, but there are people that should stay in their lane. And that's someone that should stay in their lane. He should be a TV, radio personality. That's where people like him. Stay in your lane. But now that he's trying to branch off and be something he's not, that's why it's coming off as propaganda, and it's making him look bad because it's not. It's almost as fake as his Botox because and his red skin because it's not coming off. It's not coming off authentic. You know, stay in your lane. Obviously, Catsimatidis told you to do this. There's no doubt about it. But if he stayed in his lane, then I think he'd have a lot more respect. But him coming out, now he's blocking people. Like, you're supposed to be the guy that has thick skin. You're on radio making jokes about people, but now you can't take it when people question you. That says a lot about his character or lack thereof. But I'm not surprised. When someone is supposedly friends with everyone, that means you have no friends. You can't be friends with everyone. You cannot be Switzerland in life. I'm sure our friends agree. I always tell people this. You cannot be Switzerland. You can't be neutral to everyone. You have to take a stand. There has to be people in this world that don't like you. Because if everyone likes you, you're full of shit. It's impossible. If everyone likes you, there's no way. That just means you're living a lie. So today was awesome. Breath of fresh air.
I think everybody likes me, Eric. I don't know.
Yeah, good luck with that.
But yeah, no, listen. And tonight, Inspector Ron Layson and Chief Rob Lukash, they're going to be sitting down with Curtis Sliwa. They're going to be going through all the stuff. So make sure you check that out. That is at 17:05 p.m. or 5:05 p.m. Eastern time. I got it right. Sorry, Ron, if you're on here.
Yeah, it's taking you a while.
Yeah. I'll get it right eventually. So make sure you guys check that out. Anything you want to discuss before we get out of here?
No, I just want to say one thing is Ron loves to push back on me. Big Ron Layson. He said,
yeah. I missed it. I saw it in there.
He wants to push back. I know that ICE was there and doing far more than that. And I said on the last podcast that ICE investigates and their job is to protect this country from from credible threats, and the majority of those trademark counterfeit products are from or have some lines to terrorism. I didn't go into it too much because it was Bob Holden's day. So I said Chinatown and doing peddler enforcement just so it would be a reference for him. So, I know Ron jumped all over that one. So, Ron, I got you. Don't worry. I'm going to get you tonight.
Yeah. No, I know what you meant. And I, to be fair, I've said that a couple of times too. And I don't mean that. Like, it's just, it's
easy way to say it, right?
We talk a lot, man. I mean, especially this week. I mean, I've done like 3 podcasts a day. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. I was talking to my wife the other day. She's like, "What the hell are you talking?" I was like, "I don't even know." I was like, "You know what? Just forget what I said."
It's all mishmash now. It's not
I
even
had
making
all these
sense
things
anymore.
mixed up in my head, and then
you need like a focus cleanse.
No,
You
yeah.
need to up your
I want to be done. Social media podcast. I think after the election we'll kick off. But I really do. I really see a clear path to victory for Curtis Sliwa, and people just got to stay strong. If not, I mean, regardless, if it's Cuomo or if it's Mondani, you're getting the same thing. It's
People love him. Did you see him on the Breakfast Club? Those guys, you can see they might not agree with everything Curtis Sliwa says, but they like him. So you could tell they enjoyed him being on the show. I think that's why I said he's a guy who can hang around with any group. He'll be fine with intellectuals. He's fine, just dressing down, having a cool conversation, but it's authentic. Where Eric Adams, he dresses down in each conversation to try to fit into that group. Curtis Sliwa just authentically, he just fits in. He's just a normal guy. He's a normal New York City guy who's cool.
Yeah, you guys, if you guys haven't watched the Breakfast Club interview, I highly suggest you watch a couple of Breakfast Club interviews. You should watch the Hillary Clinton Breakfast Club interview where she claims that she keeps hot sauce in her bag and she carries hot sauce. And they're like, "Are you just trying to pander to black people?" And she's like, "Is it working?" And watch Zohran's Breakfast Club interview. You see completely pandering to the black community. And then watch Curtis Sliwa's interview. He's not pandering to them. No. He's completely authentic to who he is, and like literally you see them turn in there because like, all right, this guy's the real deal. There's, you know what I mean? Whether I agree with him, whether I don't, this guy's the real deal. And they know Eric Adams been full of crap, lying to them every time he goes on. So like they, people respect that, and like after watching that interview, I'm like, how do you not like this guy? And the thing is, there really isn't many people that don't like him. It's all drummed up nonsense from people who were supposed to be his friends, all these social media influences, all these talking heads, because literally like what Bob's saying, I mean, Curtis Lee was like the Elvis Presley in New York City. The socialists like him. You know what I mean? They don't like anybody. Like they like him. Like you could go on any side of the spectrum. People like Curtis Sliwa because it's hard to not like an authentic person, even if you don't agree with them, even if you think they're an asshole. Like it's hard not to like them because you're like, all right, this guy is who he is. He's saying what he believes, and I know where he's coming from, and that's it, And so that's Curtis Sliwa, and we need that. We need that in New York City. We need a lot more people like Bob Holden. We need a lot more people like Curtis Sliwa. New York City would be in a much better place if we just had real people in office, not people seeking power, fame, and money. And that's literally what we have now. We have like these quasi celebrities. They're using this office to like become Instagram celebrities or ex celebrities. And it's just, we see where that's going. It's been 10 years of decline. It's time to get out of the decline in New York City. It's just time.
There's two metrics and measures in life that are like equate to likability. And usually it's like when people are warm, like they're genuine, they're warm to you, and they're competent. And I think Curtis Sliwa fits both boxes. He's warm, like you can have a conversation. He's a warm person. He's honest, he's genuine, and he's competent. So he's a likable person, unlike Eric Adams, where he's full of shit, right? He's full of shit and incompetent. That's why the people don't like him. In reality, just think about anyone in your life you like, oh, that person was warm. You could have a normal conversation, and they're competent. So, and that's Curtis Sliwa. And then just like Bob Holden, he's a likable guy because he was warm and honest, right? And he was very competent. So he's a likable person. So I think today was an awesome interview. Let's stand by tonight. Executive Perspective, Ron and Rob. They'll have Curtis on tonight. I'm sure that'll be great. And let's seal the deal. A couple days away, and no matter what happens, fight to the end. And even if that means, God forbid, Curtis does lose, we have to go out fighting. The worst thing I could think is if you don't fight and you don't know what and how could you be in it to win it? You can't just give up. You can't just give up. And I unfortunately, it really it's Curtis versus Mamdani Cuomo. They're the same person. Might as well call them the same person. Zoran, Andrew, I don't want to go. It's the same person. It really is. So good luck to everybody. Great chat here, and I really appreciate the engagement. The engagement's awesome. Let's keep it going. I can't believe we got to this point that common sense is not so common. And Bob told you here today, you know what the best part he told you was? That the people in city council, they're full of shit. They're scared. They're scared to tell the truth. They're scared to actually vote what they believe in. Is that the politicians we want? The greatest takeaway I think he gave today was when you vote someone like yourself. Vote someone that you want who's like you. So, thank you, everybody. I appreciate it.
Oh yeah, dude. And the other thing that he said here was when the New York Times called them and they were running a poll and they couldn't believe how many people were voting for how many people said they were voting for Curtis Sliwa. And it was the same thing with Errol Lewis. Errol Lewis was shocked. He was shocked. And you could tell he was like, wow, people really want this guy to be the mayor. Like the people of the city of New York really want him to be the mayor. And I bash Curtis prior to him jumping in the race because I was like, I don't think he's a great candidate. I think the Republican Party should put somebody else. But now that we're here, I mean, I would think I was 100% wrong. I think that he is the man for the moment. I think that he has the clout to do it. Enough people are sick enough where it doesn't really matter if you're a Republican, an independent, or Democrat. They're going to cross over. Like the time's ripe for someone outside of this political arena, like a populist candidate, to really come out and win. And so I was so wrong about that. And I'm like, I really see like this as not just a Curtis Sliwa versus everybody moment, but this is really like the working class, the common man versus the elite. It really is. It's not like Republican versus Democrat. It's common man versus the elite. It's the reality on the ground versus the perception you're being sold. And the reality on the ground is Curtis Sliwa is, in fact, the only choice to be the mayor of New York City. And the perception is that Cuomo is going to save you. Cuomo's not going to save you from nothing. Because believe me, all those same voices that are simping for Cuomo and telling you Cuomo is going to save New York City, there's no going back from this. Because if by chance Cuomo did win, what do you think they're going to be doing for the next 4 years? They're going to be doing the same thing they've been doing the last 10, which is railing against Andrew Cuomo. And now they have zero credibility because they have been the ones to have helped him get elected. So, I mean, it's as much as it's a stressful time, and as much as it's a scary time, and I get a lot of people are afraid, and there's a lot of attacks. Oh, we're gonna blame you. We're gonna blame you. Blame everybody you want because I'm gonna blame you. So I'm not worried about being blamed about anything. I've been blamed about a lot of things. And I know the rest is true. So we got to hold on. Like it's definitely like, there's definitely like this evil spirit floating around New York City and floating around this entire race. And it's the same spirit floating around this entire country of apathy and fear. And let's just go to the lesser of two evils. And I'm like, going to the lesser of two evils is still siding with evil. You're still on the wrong side, people. I'm not going there with you, and I don't think anybody should go there. I think we should stay there, and I really, really believe this is a perception versus reality game, and some people are getting sucked into it, but I think the majority of us are awake. We already know what's happening. We know how the mainstream media likes to manipulate us. We know how social media attempts to manipulate us. Don't fall for it. Don't fall for it, because that was the clearest message there. The New York Times couldn't believe it. Errol Lewis couldn't believe it. Anybody I speak to, they're like, dude, everywhere I go, it's 80, 90% Curtis Sliwa. So I think everything's a game right now. Appreciate everyone that's seeing through the nonsense, everybody that's staying strong. And hey, at the end of the day, are you siding with evil? Even if there was no clear path to victory, are you going to side with evil? I'm not.
Well, that's my point. You got to go. You got to have moral principle, and unfortunately, you have to be willing to sometimes in life die for what you believe in and fight as hard as you can. And this idea of giving up, if we would be that country that gives up, we wouldn't be speaking English right now. If we gave up in World War II, if we gave up in World War I, we wouldn't be where we're at right now. I mean, those are two significant pinnacle points in this country where everything could have changed, and we never gave up. I mean, we talk about battles in World War II where Marines and Army were just completely outnumbered, and they never gave up and kept fighting. And look where we are today. And somehow, and that's why Bob Holden's right. The young today are not learning about American history. They're not learning about global history. They're not learning about history that's important. So they don't understand that it's so important to fight, because if you don't fight, history repeats itself and we'll be right back to where we are. So they don't really understand. They're learning woke history, and they're learning about things that are not important of what this country was built on. And that's why most of these young kids that are voting for Zohran Mamdani probably weren't even alive during 9/11. Don't even understand how the world changed completely. Not just New York City. The entire world changed after 9/11. And everyone was affected by it. So, it's sad to see that we're at this point. I agree with you. I'd rather fight to the death, so we don't get kicked off on YouTube here, rhetorically speaking here, and just making the analogy, but not to give up. And if that means, listen, I do believe Curtis Sliwa can win this. But even if he doesn't, we have to fight till the bitter end. We have to send the message to Andrew Cuomo and Zohran Mamdani that you are not our choice. And we're not going to go for the lesser two evils. Absolutely not. And when they become mayor, if they do win, and their policies are just so radical and turn things upside down for New York City, that's when it's time to protest. That's why it's so important that we fight for our rights and have our Bill of Rights, your First Amendment, your right to freedom of speech. And people are trying to take that away. Because if they do become mayor and they turn the city upside down, there has to be protest. It has to be protest upon protest. Can't give up. Not now. So Curtis Sliwa, I do think you're the man for the job. I do think that you're going to win. I've learned a lot about you in these past couple of months, and I think that you've really showed below the surface. You're not just a TV personality. You're actually a real New York City crime fighter that wants what's best for this country. So thank you so much, brother. I appreciate it.
Who's your favorite president? Because Bob Holden and me share the same favorite president, Ronald Reagan. Who's your favorite president?
100%, brother. I've always said, I can't believe that we're all saying the same thing. Ronald Reagan has always been my favorite. There's no doubt about it. If there's anyone who has great quotes, and it's Ronald Reagan, right? I think it's an old conversation where he talks about, some person giving away free stuff, and Ronald Reagan, just talking about how we can't give things away. I mean, just a brilliant man. Who started out his life as an actor, but wanted public service, and he did it so well, honorable, and shot and kept doing his job. Outstanding. I think Ronald Reagan was just completely amazing. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, just want to give a shout out to Corvette Tony and Tom for their super chats today. Appreciate you. Tom says after the election, let's go protest Sid. Corvette Tony told us go to Starbucks. Mushroom coffee, Tony. It's more expensive. It's for the real snooty. Not as good though. Doesn't smell as good either. Doesn't smell.
Mushroom coffee a couple times. It's definitely a quiet taste. It wouldn't be my go-to, but it's not bad. Right now I'm in Budapest and Hungary, and everything is good luck getting like a regular cup of coffee. It's a regular cup of coffee here is Americano, but so it's espressos, lattes, cappuccinos. So I do recommend, if you're going to travel, I think everyone should travel. I think that, to me, traveling is like it's important to read books, but if you don't travel, you only get one page in that book. You need to travel. And the more you travel, you appreciate what you have in America, and then you can also look and see what we don't have in America. I tell you one thing: America is doing us. They are doing us dirty. So when it comes to when it comes to food, and I've been all around. There's a lot of foods that are banned in some of the countries I've been in that are still sold in America. So when it comes to food, they are doing us dirty. Like, I'm in Europe right now, and you don't really see people that are. You see some people that are overweight, but the majority of people are in great shape. Great shape. So we have to ask ourselves why. So I find myself when I go to different countries, I eat just as much or more, and I don't gain any weight. So other than that, America's an amazing place, and we have to keep fighting for it. So take care, everybody. Make sure you travel if you can. Of course, it's expensive, but put some money aside. Travel. It's not only enjoyable, but it's also part of education. So I do recommend it.
All right, people, we're going to end out on a positive note. For those of you on YouTube, we may lose the stream because of this, or may not, but we'll end out a little different today, just in honor of Ronald Reagan and just for the time that we're in. So everybody, make sure you check out the executive perspective tonight at 5:05 p.m., 17:05 p.m., where they have Curtis Sliwa on. And that's it, people. Find us Unfiltered. We will be back at you.
We cannot buy our security, our freedom from the...
There's a handful of retired officers that don't live in the state that have a lot to say about the dream team, as I like to call it. All of a sudden, they retire and have a master plan on how to fight crime, but nothing to contribute when they were here. They want to come back and be part of the dream team. What can I say?